Good day. I am just wrapping up my fishing for this morning, and I had a bit of a topwater bite that vanished when the sun got a little high. But before I cut out of here, I wanted to do a review of the new St. Croix Legend Tournament Bass Power Glass Cranking Rod. This rod is 7'4", medium, heavy, moderate. 8 to 20 pound line, 3/8 to 1 ounce, and it's made of the blank material, which is the secret sauce. Actually, the blank material is SC4 graphite plus carbon, and then something called iACT glass. I do not know what that is, and I would encourage you to go to the St. Croix website and look it up. I'm sure the entire process is there, along with what that specific combination of materials, how that works in this particular blank. Before I move on, I will say that it's really balanced, it's really light, super sensitive. It feels great in my hand. I've been fishing it for, I think I fished it like 5 or 6 times. It's in the Legend Tournament Bass line, so if you have any of those rods, you know the fit and finish is superior. It's really good. I've got it matched with the new Shimano MGL-A Bantam 6.2, really sweet reel, and I may do a review on this later. Really nice, 15-pound Tatsu. All right, so it's a crankbait rod. It's graphite, it's carbon, it's glass. What the heck does all that mean? How does it fish? Well, I'm going to back up a little bit before I give my opinion of it, or my assessment of it. And I'm going to say I have some experience with other materials that helped me decide sort of how this works compared to the other ones. And I'll start off with a fiberglass, a plain fiberglass stick. I won't say in the beginning, but a couple of decades ago, all there was fiberglass rods. And those of us that fished with those rods caught fish and didn't know any better and thought they were great. However, as soon as graphite came onto the scene, fiberglass sort of fell out of favor. And with pretty good reason, because compared to a straight graphite rod, a fiberglass stick, this happens to be a Lamiglass SR705R. It's a pretty special skeet reese stick. I've got a KVD Cranking Classic reel on at 5.3. I think this is 12-pound Tatsu. Compared to a graphite stick, fiberglass is heavy. It's super slow action. Some people say that it lacks hook setting power. There's a lot of consensus, general consensus by people, and with justification compared to graphite. It's just a different experience. However, if you've never fished with a fiberglass rod and all you've ever done is fished with graphite, there is no way I can explain to you what this is like. You would have to fish it and find out for yourself. I can tell you what it's like, but you have to experience it for yourself. It's not like graphite. First of all, look at the size difference. I don't know if you can even tell, but the graphite stick probably weighs half of what this Lamiglass weighs. This, by the way, is a Legend Tournament Bass medium, heavy, moderate, fast, 7-foot spinnerbait rod. It's the Sweeper spinnerbait. It's just graphite, and I'll get to this in a second. Nice stick. So the fiberglass, I really like this rod. It catches dynamite. It loads up great. It's got plenty of horsepower. It just comes on slower, and you have to account for that while you're fishing. And one of the reasons why I like to fish it, I'm sure there's some nostalgia mixed up in this, but this is a pretty nice rod. So then we had Composite came out, which is a mixture of graphite and fiberglass. No big secret, everybody knows. However, it was promoted as the best of both worlds between graphite and fiberglass. I love this. This is a Quantum KVD 7-foot medium, heavy, moderate crankbait rod. I love these rods. The first edition came out, I had 5 or 6 of them. I loved them. The second edition came out, I sold the first edition and bought all second editions. I think I have 7 of them. Not a huge fan of the foam, but the other characteristics of the rod superseded that particular factor, and I've caught more trophy-sized smallmouth bass on these composite rods than probably all my other sticks combined. So compared to the fiberglass rod, the composite rod is still pretty big, still pretty heavy, still not super sensitive, casts dynamite, fights fish dynamite, loads slow, but that's what you get when you have this combination of materials. I still like the rod. And then there is, on the total other end of the spectrum, is the graphite stick. It's super thin diameter, it's super light, super sensitive, nowhere near as parabolic, nowhere near as slow as the fiberglass and the composite rod. It's a different experience. Even though this is a moderate fast blank, it's still graphite. And you know, they were hoping with this new stick to sort of bridge the gap, and I think they did, and we'll get there. This stick I use for its 8 to 12 pound line, 3/8 to 3/4 ounce. I fish, the sweet spot for the stick is half ounce spinner baits, no heavier. I don't think it has the horsepower to set the hooks on long casts with anything heavier than half ounce spinner bait. It's great for small crankbaits when you want the sensitivity, because the graphite will give you the sensitivity that the fiberglass and the composite won't give you. Super light, great, super balanced. Again, I get this with a quantum reel. I love this rod. It's a nice stick. And then we come to the star of the show, the Legend Tournament. This stick is unlike anything I've ever fished. It's amazingly light, super sensitive, casts great, hook sets great, fights fish great. It is, in my opinion, the best of both worlds, but it's not a fiberglass stick. It fishes way more like a graphite stick than it does a fiberglass stick, and I think that's what they wanted to do. It also has all the characteristics that are more like a graphite in comparison to the composite rod. I mean, it's decidedly smaller, it's lighter, it's more sensitive, like graphite is compared to composite. So I think when you look at these 4 sticks and the characteristics of each one, this new stick fits right here. And I think that's what St. Croix was going for. It's not a graphite stick. It's certainly not a composite stick. It has a mixture of materials, again, that I have not committed to memory. But as far as fishability goes, it's pretty nice. I don't think these composite rods are a big hit with the bass fishing crowd. I think there's less of these than there are graphite sticks. And so I think St. Croix was looking for a way to sort of capture some of the people who kind of wanted these, but didn't really like the heft and the lack of sensitivity that comes with it. But they also didn't feel that a graphite crankbait rod or moderate blank was actually moderate enough. So they came up with this, and it's pretty nice. So that was a long way around, but I felt it was important to talk about all of them, because they all play a role in how I decided or determined what this was and how I liked it or how I didn't like it. I like it. Is it going to replace the composite rod or replace the fiberglass rod for me? No, it is not. It's another tool, and I'll use it judiciously, because I think it has a place. I think it's really going to shine with like a 2.5 square bill. I really think this, I do a lot of that across big open flats for big smallmouth in the fall, which is coming up shortly. And I think that's where this thing is going to excel. I'll be able to launch them and then have all the characteristics that I need to get those fish into the fray bill, which is very important to me. Okay, so I hope that helps. And that's about it for me. I am heading home. Good talking to you.